Thanks, Megan. They've given me an hour before lunch. Can you believe that?
We're supposed to be done at 11:30.
Oh, 11:30. Oh, okay, okay. I'm not usually into time, you know. Yeah. All right. That's why I only have 2 slides. I have no p-values and no numbers. So I'm a veterinarian today. All right. And actually, one of the things, did you see those cool diagrams up there that Megan? She's never presented that anywhere before. You guys are the first. And that modeling was done with Trevor Heffley and Gia in his, from the statistics department, which Ernie had the foresight to help us with a little support there. Using some of the most advanced statistical modeling, it was based on some papers out of Nature Scientific Reports. So just showing you, you know, we had a few years ago, we had Megan Niederwerder here giving you the electromagnetic spectrum. You know, you never know what you're going to get when you come in this room. You got a little advanced statistical knowledge here in a nice pictorial format without a lot of numbers involved, but it was visually. And the important point there is that was striking to us. Because, I mean, at first it was clear that the infectious dose in water was, you know, a lot lower, which you'd expect. You know, we think, what's the practical thing in your guys' everyday that happens? If you put pigs in a wet barn, is that a good move? No. We want the barn dry and warm, you know, because we know that decreases pathogens. So that was pretty obvious, and we kind of expected that. But the feed thing, when you start thinking about the multiple exposures, even though the risk is a lot lower, and I think that transmits throughout our whole feed industry, is the risk of infection from the feed is probably pretty low. It's probably, like Cassie said, it's probably not the primary means of transmission, but you think about the amount of feed events that are occurring. The volume of ingredients coming in, the number of times we're getting exposed to our pigs and all those kinds of things, we cannot tolerate even a low risk in those ingredients. And so that's been a huge thing on our end, and trying to figure out what's going on. Oops, backwards. And I'm lucky enough that I get to work with Megan that goes into the BRI and does all that stuff, and I don't have to get all the training because I don't set foot in the building, you know. But what I like to do is go and go out in the field and study some of these production systems. You know, they think they're paying me to teach them something, but I'm actually learning from them, you know. And I'm really, I got to thank some of the producers that I work with in the world, you know, some really, really good production systems. And there's nothing like going, Joel and I go to southern Russia, into the middle of ASF zone. And you gotta, you know, we've been lucky enough to work with a production system that has not gotten infected. And you see some of the, you know, we suit up to go into their feed mill like you would go into a sow farm. You're doing things like work in a country where they got FMD. And, you know, when I get a full suit of clothes at the hotel, it's like going into the BRI to go into their farms, you know. So those are some of the things that happen when you're in a zone and you want to raise high health pigs. I've been able to experience firsthand, and now we're seeing some of that come into the U.S. and we're gonna figure out ways to do that. And so, from a practical standpoint, I know I've been involved. Charles involved a little bit too. We as the planning for a greenfield mill, it's something that's kind of fun because that doesn't happen every day, you know. I think I've only been involved in one or two in my whole career that I've with a greenfield mill, and they started planning this mill about the time learning about PED, and so they incorporated some things into this mill. They've got high capacity grain dust separation. They took some of Cassie's work with the mycotoxins. They put in some screening to screen some of the boar stud and sow farm feed. You can't screen every ton of feed going through a large production system, but again, we try to mitigate some of the risk. And so what we're doing out in the field too, we got a biosecurity audit that's up on the feed safety website, and it really got to give PIC credit there. Some of their team after PED, we worked with them, and they brought in a lot of good things. So there's a lot of good things in that audit, and it's more of a going through a mill and stimulating a conversation and thinking about things. And we ran into some of the things, you know, just things of flow of trucks and people through a mill. Cassie, I know, talks many times about zoning a feed mill. Well, that's common practice, right? Josh, in the meat plant, you got zones in that meat plant, right? We're going to do the same thing in feed mills. I mean, you can't be going across and scraping your boots. I'd never heard that story. I get headaches thinking about some of this stuff. We're going through those audits. We're actually doing them out in the field. I've got probably I got one production system that's trying to get through all their toll mills, and then coming up with a corrective action plan, or what can they do on a practical basis. The other one we're going through is getting a list of all the ingredients in the mill. I know there's a lot of ingredients in toll mills and stuff, and multi-species mills, and I've always known that, but when you sit down in a spreadsheet and you get a spreadsheet of 345 ingredients in a big mill, I mean, I had one the other day that I went through the spreadsheet. It's all swine. They had like 70 ingredients in there, you know, and so digging through that, I really really want to give you a shout out. I've worked with many people in this room, you know, especially on the ingredient supplier side. That's what we're trying to do is we're trying to go up the chain before the toll mill, and we're taking it not just, like Cassie said too, is not just holding time as your only deal. We're trying to get up the chain and break it down into whether it's a negligible risk or so things that are like amino acids and phytase that are in a plant and they're in original packaging and they're transported. You know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because I don't think that's a high risk. Now, when we started deciphering things and I looked into choline made in Canada, it said product of Canada, and so we said, oh, where did the carrier come from? The carrier came from China. Well, I don't know a lot about risk, but I'm like, it's a lot more likely that the corn cobs came from a pig farm than the choline came in an industrial process from a farm, you know. And in fact, I got a good corn cob story too. I know David's in the room, David Nolan. He's a nice layout of all their carriers and where they're from, and they're sending corn cobs from Iowa to Bulgaria to put the antimicrobial on it. And I said, David, are you actually doing this? Like, this makes no sense to corn cobs to there and get it back. He said, yeah, that's part of the approval process, and we've got an assured source of corn cobs, so appreciate all the people and that have put efforts into those kind of things, because We've got soybean meal coming from China into the Midwest for organic. I kind of question that practice a little bit, but we got it happening. I mean, this is the other thing we've been going through. We've been reviewing protocols from all the suppliers. Again, you've done all the ingredient people here. Many of you have addressed this. You're trying to figure out logically what's prudent but practical. That's the words I'm using. I don't have any quantitative measure of that right now, but we're trying to be prudent, but yet we're trying to be practical again because we know we got to get feed made. And we're just saying, drawing a line that all the carriers for the active ingredients got to be from North America. We just don't want organic material coming from farms. One of the ways that FMD got into China FMD got into Japan from China was forage materials that were transported, and that's happened multiple times into Japan. So we know those kind of things, and that's where we're drawing the line. Porcine and other animal products, we're requesting with my high health deals. We don't want any in the mill, and visited a little bit about bulk ingredients. None from outside North America or Europe. We do classify Europe. We are classifying it. It's zoned, and so if we got ingredients coming from Europe, we're depending that their veterinary surveillance is strong enough that we're not coming from zones that are infected from European-based ingredients as well. So that's kind of some of the things that I've been involved in. High health systems I work with out in the field. It's very early in our stages, I think, and it's really different than what when we've been dealing with PED and those kind of things. We had infections going on, and now trying to protect from a risk that we'll never know if we were successful or not. As long as if we keep it out, we'll never know what we did that was actually successful. And so that's when I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around, and trying to keep these things from being prudent and practical. Also, I just want to say thanks to just got a wonderful group of grad students. I know we've mentioned that several times. When we say we, they give a lot. They give us 100%. We've just came through. I am going to give a specific shout out to a group of students that we've came through a group of prelims. We've got a group of PhD students that are really up there. Josh Carini, you want to get to know Carini. She's your friend. And better yet, hire her. You know that R that you're thinking about doing? She's changing us to, we're going to switch from SAS to R because of Carini. There's some real advantages to it. Mariana, coming with an update of the swine nutrition guide. Updated it in 10, 12 years. Just doing a wonderful job. It's going to be phone-centric. You can pull it up on your phone, have a nice little reference there. Henrique, is Jim Steen, did he make it? Oh, there he is. All you need to know from that complex there, Jim, you're going to sell more tryptophan and valine. That's what that equation says. All those terms in there, that says more tryptophan and valine for Jim. And we got a couple more. We got Annie working with Amazon. We just got some wonderful students, so I want to thank them. That must be the hint that I'm talking.